Good day! Have you ever felt tired of eating pre-packaged food but have no choice because of your busy lifestyle? Well, today we are focusing on that issue here at BusinessMirror's Freshly Brewed. Like great coffee to savor, Freshly Brewed tells compelling stories through the interaction between the most interesting people and BusinessMirror's roster of journalist hosts, discussing the hot issues of the day or topics still unfolding or brewing. Our very first Freshly Brewed episode tackled ultra-processed food, and that topic has apparently drawn a lot of interest. For today's episode, we will be talking about pre-packaged food. Now, what is the difference between the two, and why should we include these in our budget? Let's listen in to this conversation between Dr. Mario Capanzana, Executive Director of the Philippine Chamber of Food Manufacturers, and our very own host for today, Ada Pelonia, BusinessMirror's agri-commodities reporter.
Hello everyone and welcome back to today's episode of Freshly Brewed, a space for deeper dialogues that aim to spark change. I'm your host for today, Ada Pelonia, BusinessMirror's commodities reporter. Join me as we delve into the world of food manufacturing and uncover the journey behind some of your favorite prepackaged foods. To help us understand the critical role of prepackaged food in our diets, we have Mr. Mario V. Capanzana, the Executive Director of the Philippine Chamber of Food Manufacturers. Good morning, Sir Capanzana. I hope you're having a good day so far.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to all the viewers. It's quite good, even it's quite hot outside.
Totoo po. Sir, can you give us a brief background about the Philippine Chamber of Food Manufacturers? What are your current advocacies po?
Yeah, the Philippine Chamber of Food Manufacturers, or PCFMI Inc., is a 65 years old organization of the manufacturers in the Philippines. Actually, we have about more than 100 members of food manufacturers and also some traders as members of this organization. So we advocate for the PCMI aspire to be the leading voice of the food manufacturers in the Philippines that provides safe and nutritious food for all the Filipinos. So we have several advocacies right now, among which are the food safety and nutrition. We have also looking at the innovation and renovation of food, and likewise science-based policy towards safe and nutritious food. So those are some of the advocacies that we provide to our members and to the general populations.
Sir, you mentioned policies on safe and nutritious food. There's a lot of discussions po kasi about ultra-processed food these days. What's the difference between ultra-processed food po and pre-packaged food?
Yeah, I think that it's quite technical, but allow me to talk in English and Filipino. Okay. Actually, if you go deeper, in general, they are about the same. Mm-hmm. But recently, they've been talking about ultra-processed food and something that they associate as unhealthy. Whereas we have the official definition of prepackaged food based on the Food and Drug Administration issuances. But let me focus on the ultra-processed food. Actually, it started in Brazil when they conducted a study on the consumption of food in Brazil. So there was a study that they classify food based on the they call it NOVA classification, where they have the 4 categories. So I'll focus on the first categories is those that has not been processed, like other ingredients. And the second is those ingredients, those food that have been processed but added with some benefit, with some ingredients and minimally processed. And the third is those packaged foods na ginamitan naman ng mga ingredients like salt, etc. And the fourth category is what they call ultra-processed foods, which they classify it as those food that has been processed using high temperature, like canning and steaming, extrusion, and they associate it as unhealthy food. So yun ang isa sa mga issues that we want to resolve, that the ultra-processed food is not actually unhealthy. And in fact, it also improves the nutritional quality of processed food.
Okay. Pero sir, should we focus more on pre-packaged food instead of ultra-processed food?
Yeah, I think so. Pre-packaged foods are those that has been packaged, put in a container, and make sure that it is safe and have longer shelf life. And again, going back to the ultra-processed food, I think there seems to be a misconception and misunderstanding about what is healthy and unhealthy, and how it is associated with ultra-processed food. In the ultra-processed food, you are classifying it based on the processing methods. Whereas if you talk about healthiness, it should be the food component that should be classified. So practically, hindi siya tamang definition. And there's no technical acceptable definition about ultra-processed food. We need to look at, if we talk about healthiness, we should talk about the food component, how much will be the protein, vitamins, and minerals. So food can be classified that as high in protein, high in fat, high in sodium, or high in vitamin A, things like that, based on the Codex Alimentarius guidelines.
Okay. Pero sir, can you help us understand, ano po ba yung role ng prepackaged food in our society, especially sa diet po natin mga Pilipino?
Yeah, very good question. I think the prepackaged food helps us sustain our food availability. For example, there was a case recently or last year or this year, napakaraming tomatoes or kamatis sa Nueva Ecija, and it's just lying down. So the cry of the farmers, we should have processing method for this type of tomato. So if you process as being a food engineer, you need to maybe preheat it, remove the skin, put it in a can, put some other ingredients, and subject it to thermal processing so that it will have a longer shelf life. So and in this context, if you put the label ultra-processed food, that's wrong. Because it's still healthy. It's tomato, and it makes sure that you have sustained supply of tomato all year round. So that is the sustainability, longer shelf life, and of course, nutritional improvement. Technically, the beta-carotene present in tomato will not be available for absorption if you are not going to process it, such that it will be broken down. So masyadong technical na. But it needs processing to make sure it is available. So that's one. The other important thing about processing is that it makes the food, practically some of the vegetable or some of the, or fish or other plant materials, nutritionally improved by processing. We know that most of this food, they contain certain enzymes. and these are some of the anti-nutritional factors. So if it should be subjected to heat such that you can absorb some of the minerals that is available in the food. So once it is processed by heating, we can now absorb some of this nutrient, and that involves processing. So processing helps food healthy and not unhealthy in that case.
Opo. And sir, nabanggit nyo nga po yung farmers na maraming nasasayang na tomato. So, pre-packaged food, it also helps farmers po na maiwasan yung wastage.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives us food security, wastage. And we know that some of the foods, not only in Nueva Ecija, but somewhere in Mindanao, yung kalabasa, like plenty of kalabasa, but it can be processed into a puree, thermally process it, and it will be available some other time when you need it. So processing is very important, and it should not be associated as unhealthy food.
Okay po. Pero sir, nababanggit niyo po yung nutrition. How can prepackaged products be a key to fortification, and how important is this?
Yeah, I think, well, we fortify food, particularly processed food, because somehow during processing, some of the nutrients will be affected, like, for example, the protein, some other heat label nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. So, to some degree, there's a decrease in terms of the nutrients. So, to improve it, we advocate for fortification. So, we add nutrients like vitamin A, iron or iodine, vitamin D, to put back the nutrient that has been lost during processing. And there's a guidelines here. And making sure that the food that we process and fortified is acceptable. I think those are important things that we need to look at kasi yung acceptability ng pagkain importante. So, fortification really is an answer to the nutritional problem of the population. Particularly, we know that we are still vitamin A deficient. Some sectors are iodine deficient. And of course, although iron deficiency is improving, but there are some sectors in the life stage that still lacks iron in the body. So fortification is the key to make sure that people or the populations maintain their nutritional requirement.
Sir, considering na we can fortify processed food, do you think a balanced diet can be achieved po through prepackaged food po?
Yeah, naman. It is always a healthy diet, balanced diet. So you can add certain processed food in your daily meals, and it should be in moderation. I think that's, if you're a nutritionist, we need to make sure that we eat in moderation and with variety.
So not necessarily po na prepackaged lang para sa makuha yung nutrients.
Yes, because some of these nutrients may not be available in prepackaged food, but they are available in other forms. Like, you know, we have very selective in terms of our preference for food. So we can put fresh vegetable or fruits. If you remember the Pinggang Pinoy.
Opo.
So I think in the Pinggang Pinoy, we can advocate that you can put some portions of some of the processed food. Like if you are in a farm where there's not much supply of fish, so you can put some of your canned fish as source of the protein in your Pinggang Pinoy, and add some of the veggies, and of course rice, kamote, and you have a healthy diet in that case. So I think moderation, balance, and variety is very important to come up with healthy diet, not to associate ultra-processed food as unhealthy. Ultra-processed food or processed food is very important to make sure that we have sustained supply of food, we have a we have what call that acceptable food in anywhere, particularly if you are in the rural area. I think those are important things.
Opo. Pero sir, nabanggit niyo na po yung misconceptions kanina. Ano po ba yung mga iba pang misconceptions about food processing and ano po yung gravity nito para sa Pilipino?
Yeah, ang sabi nila, pag process po daw, well, generally it is unhealthy. Kasi daw mataas ang sodium, mataas ang fat, mataas ang maybe some sugar. But this all leads to the innovation, renovation. Maybe if ever they are found high in this particular nutrient of concern, they can be reformulated. There are other alternatives that can be used to reformulate. Of course, at first, the palate, particularly of Filipinos, may not be, used to that particular taste. But over the time, well, they can adjust their palate. You know that there in some areas, we have different profile of beverages. Maybe in the Visayas, they're quite sweeter than some of the beverages in Luzon. Do you know that? Have you read that article? Or maybe when I traveled, I was wondering why the beverage in the Philippines is tastes like this. Why in Germany is different?
Opo, magkaiba po.
So magkaiba siya. Because you gradually you can innovate and come up with your sugar reduction or salt reduction or alternative sugar or alternative salt to make sure that the food that you eat is still acceptable and enjoying it.
Opo. Sir, nabanggit niyo rin na innovation ay isa sa mga advocacies niyo po. And there's a lot of innovation po when it comes to food manufacturing, like this pre-packaged food. Pero what do you think is the future of this industry?
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. We need to innovate. I think with the increasing, demand for healthy food or what you call functional food, food beyond nutrition, food that will provide you some health benefits. Like if you eat this for some time, you will not increase your blood sugar, or you'll prevent from having a cancer, and we call it as functional food. They have food components that may help prevent some of these non-communicable diseases, and we call that functional food. And those are the trend now that manufacturers maybe are looking at. Besides its nutritional content, they have certain functional characteristics that help solve some of the non-communicable diseases. Maroon tayong mga sabi, kumain ka nito at hindi tataas ang blood sugar mo. Just because it contains fiber. So, it is a scientific evidence that shows the beneficial effect. Importante yung scientific evidence that show the beneficial effect of that food component in the, in your processed food.
Sir, before we let you go po, what would you like to tell our viewers about prepackaged food?
Yeah, I think prepackaged food is something that will help us sustain the supply of our food, make sure that we have deliver the longer shelf life. I think that's more important because there are times that we have plenty of harvest, and it helps our farmers to generate more income through processing some of the excess harvest. That's the principle of food technology, if I could say, that when you have plenty of harvest, you need to go through processing. And our consumer should really look at that. Make sure that you consume food with variety, in moderation, and you enjoy the food that you eat. There's nothing like, food that are purely unhealthy. it should have variety.
Opo. Sir, ano naman po yung kailangan tingnan ng viewers natin pag bibili po sila ng mga prepackaged items?
Yeah, I think although our study indicated that napakaunti ang nagbabasa ng label ng pagkain, at kung nagbabasa man, ang binabasa ay, gaano ba katagal ito? Magkano ba to? Very few or almost 50% or less than 50% of our homemakers or homemakers ay nagbabasa ng nutrition information. So, yung nutrition information will tell us how much nutrient ang naandun sa packaged food. So, I think we need to do a certain communication strategies such that consumer will at least look at ano bang calories nito. Pag kumain ako ng isang kutsara or isang serving, mamimit ba yung aking requirement? Or something like that. Pero wala yon. We just have the policy on back of pack labeling. Pero walang support to make it easily understandable by consumer. So, yun yung mga gap that we need to look at.
Pero sir, how important po ba is packaged food to our country's food supply chain?
Yeah, it's important. Yeah, again, as I mentioned, for sustainable food supply, we need to package the product kasi nga, if sa katagalan, it will spoil. So, we need to do the processing of this food to make sure it is available and acceptable and of course enjoyable. Some of these food products we enjoy consuming some of this processed food because it tastes good for us.
Thank you so much, Sir Capanzana, for joining us here on Freshly Brewed and for the really insightful conversations on food manufacturing. To our viewers, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm Ada Pelonia, and this has been Freshly Brewed. We'll see you next time.
And that wraps up our Freshly Brewed episode for today. Thank you for tuning in to Freshly Brewed. Stay informed, stay inspired, and make smarter choices every day with BusinessMirror. For the latest stories and updates, visit our website, businessmirror.com.ph, for a broader look at today's business. And follow us on our social media channels. Stay ahead, know more, and see you next time.